It's the greatest achievement in the history of Formula One racing. Michael Schumacher gets his 7th Formula One World Championship, the first ever 7.
Lewis Hamilton's historic dominance of F1 truly unprecedented. Lewis Hamilton has been winning races and winning championships in this 1%er sport called Formula One for 15 years. Hamilton has been so good, from the moment he entered the sport until now, that he is enigmatically incomparable. That's true even in a year that includes his worst start to an F1 season since 2009 and even coming off his worst finish in a race just last month, when he was lapped at Imola by Red Bull's Max Verstappen, his greatest challenger over the past half-decade. Heading into the first of two 2022 US Grand Prix races this weekend in Miami, with Hamilton looking up for the first time in a long time at a Drivers' Championship he isn't likely to win, it's important to bear in mind that his curriculum vitae is utterly and nearly unflinchingly astonishing. This might be the first season since 2013 in which Hamilton fails to win either the World Drivers' Championship, most points in a season by a single driver, or the World Constructors' Championship, most points in a season by a team. Since joining Mercedes in 2013, he has lost the Drivers' Championship just once, to his teammate Nico Rosberg. Hamilton won his first world title in 2008, becoming the youngest driver in the sport's history to accomplish the feat, which he did at 23 years, 9 months, 26 days old. He secured the 2008 title on the final lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix, with a dramatic overtake for 5th place in the home race of a motorsport icon and his personal hero, Ayrton Senna. Over the next 13 years, Hamilton has redefined what it means to dominate the sport, becoming the first driver to win 100 F1 races and take 100 poles. Heading into the 2021 season, there was every reason to believe that Hamilton, driving the most dominant machine of the previous era, marked by F1's switch to V6 hybrid engines, would win a record 8th consecutive Drivers' Championship. That would have put him ahead of not just Michael Schumacher but also the greats in most major sports in the modern era. In the final race of the season at Abu Dhabi, tied in points with Verstappen, Hamilton lost the world title on the final lap in a race that ended in controversy. A safety car restart on that last lap gave Verstappen a crucial advantage. So it goes. That's racing. Then, just weeks after that season ended, he was knighted. He recently said that his niece and nephew now call him Sir Uncle. Just before Mother's Day in the United Kingdom last March, Hamilton spoke of changing his name to reflect his mother's, in recognition of what she means to him. "None of you might know that my mum's name is La Balestia, and I am just about to put that in my name," he said. "Because I don't fully understand the idea that when people get married, the woman loses their name. And my mum, I really want her name to continue on, along with the Hamilton name." What I love most about this super on-brand comment from Hamilton is that his gushing love for his mother came in response to a question about what it would mean to him to become the first F1 driver to win 8 Drivers' Championships. Hamilton is affable, even when he's completely flappable. In the cockpit of a fighter jet on 4 wheels, you can hear him talking to his race engineer, Peter Bonington. Speaking to Bono, Hamilton can sound flustered, tired, dejected, on edge, and yet somehow he makes the flight in the fight-or-flight impulse feel genuine, the human condition at 202 miles per hour. In post-race media conferences, especially in defeat, he's gracious, kind and measured. He's not the man your son or daughter might bring home, but he's the one every parent would pick for their child, a worldly, black millionaire who not only made good but also basks in his own curiosity and affinity for the world around him. He's someone who will catwalk at a Tommy Hilfiger event in Shanghai 2 days after taking second in the Singapore Grand Prix. He's as likely to have HAM on his helmet, referring to the Kanye West and Jay-Z song, "Let These People Know Who I Am," as he is to wear a t-shirt at the Tuscan Grand Prix demanding justice for Breonna Taylor, and then go win the race en route to drive a world title number 7. In both cases, he had something to lose: his seat, his reputation, his tremendous public standing and platform. In both cases, he chose to be human, to be one of us, in a sport that mythologizes the man beneath the visor. Who Michael Jordan is to so many basketball fans, Lewis Hamilton is to me. Who Reggie Bush is to many college football fans, Lewis Hamilton is to me. Who Ayrton Senna is to Lewis Hamilton, Lewis Hamilton is to me. And for many, all Hamilton does is drive, but it's how he has driven and remains driven that makes him singular, a nova lighting up the sky when the sky is darkest. Hamilton has been one of those 20 every year since 2007, a year before Schumacher retired the first time. What's more, Hamilton was paired with the driver who broke Schumacher's stranglehold on F1, Fernando Alonso, and not only proceeded to beat Alonso, but was so good that Alonso threatened to out his own team for stealing intellectual property from Ferrari. Put another way, Hamilton was so good that the reigning world champion threatened to blackmail his own team if it didn't force Hamilton to slow down. Hamilton has since equaled Schumacher with the most F1 driver championships, 7, by one person in the 72-year history of the sport. Heading into the 2022 season, Hamilton had more Grand Prix wins, 103, finishes on the podium, 183, and poles taken, 103, than Schumacher, and Hamilton did all that in 290 starts, 16 fewer than Schumacher. Hamilton also replaced Schumacher at Mercedes in 2013. While it's impossible to replace the legend of Schumacher, Hamilton has built his own, and it's one that won't be seen again because the circumstances around Hamilton are just as unique as he is. Since he entered the sport, he has rewritten the record book, with 50 more victories than four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. Speaking to his longevity, Hamilton holds or shares 21 records in the sport, including most consecutive starts, 265, in a piece of equipment that reaches more than 200 miles per hour and is conservatively worth several $1 million. Schumacher's 2001 F1 Ferrari sold at public auction for more than $7.5 million 20 years ago. Senna is believed by purists to be the best driver the sport has ever seen, and his legend has only grown since his fatal accident in 1994 at Imola. Most who remember him will tell you that there will never be another Senna, just as there will never be another Pelé. But there is a Serena Williams, a Leo Messi, a Katie Ledecky, a Cristiano Ronaldo, a Michael Jordan. No other black person has been the first to enter their sport, a pioneer, and immediately bent the sport to their will, eclipsing a mark set by the best to ever do it while remaining the only black competitor in the sport. Add to this the fact that Hamilton races on 5 continents, 9 months per year, in a sport measured not in seconds but in tenths of a second. His sport demands prodigious reflexes, precise decision-making and an unblinking gaze into pressure. One of the hallmarks of Hamilton's ability as a driver is that he is willing to stay on the throttle just a touch longer than the other 19 drivers on the grid, risking his life, to gain just a bit more speed going into and coming off the apex of a corner more than a dozen times per lap over the course of as many as 70 laps. In 2015, at Monza, Italy, the legendary home track of vaunted Ferrari, Hamilton drove his Mercedes 192 miles in 78 minutes, averaging 147 miles per hour. He has recorded the fastest laps ever on 8 Grand Prix circuits, as well as the fastest lap in the 72-year history of F1 when he took the pole at Monza in 2020 with an average speed of 164 miles per hour. He did this in a car that goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.4 seconds, 60 to 120 miles per hour in 2 seconds and 200 miles per hour to 0 in 3.5 seconds. Cornering, he feels 4 times the force of gravity. Braking, he feels at least 5 times the force of gravity. At top speed, his car generates 2.5 tons of downforce, pushing Hamilton and the car closer to the ground to reduce drag, and the force of gravity just by lifting his foot off the gas, a deceleration so fierce that former F1 Williams racing team principal Adam Parr compared it to a Porsche 911 driver doing the emergency brake in his book with Ross Brawn called Total Competition. Perhaps it's understood that an F1 car does not have an automatic transmission. But where many manual transmissions come with 6 gears pushing the car forward, an F1 car is built with 8 and has the capacity to change gears in 40 milliseconds. The 20 F1 drivers on the grid have reached the pinnacle of the sport. The machines they drive are more akin to fighter jets than cars, as they are in wheel-to-wheel combat for 90 minutes to 2 hours nearly 24 times. And the drivers are recruited and developed much the same way jet pilots are. F1 drivers have uncannily quick reflexes and rarely have poor vision. The rest is decided by just how good the car they are driving is. An F1 car wins a championship, but an F1 driver can lose one. This is, yet again, where Hamilton is unique.